Hello everybody, this is Brad Robbins from Adobe, back on the streets of New York City here at Advertising Week. And here alongside me now we have Bonin Bough, media expert and host of Cleveland Hustles on CNBC. And Bonin, we're glad to have you with us.
I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for joining us in the tank on the street.
In the tank, on the streets, looking at friends pass by, Frank Eliason from AT&T. I don't know about fans.
People taking photos in taxi cabs and all sorts of things. Well, we're excited to have you here. Bonin, I understand you've had your hands in a number of things over the years, everything from digital marketing to even agency work, and now, of course, being on television with Cleveland Hustles. Why don't you just kind of tell us a little bit about where you're currently at and what it's taken to get where you are?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So Adobe is a big part of my youth growing up. Adobe 3.0, I think, was the first time I used Photoshop 3.0 was the first time I think I used an Adobe product. It might have been even before that. It might have been 1.0. I don't remember. Yeah, so I am currently hosting a show called Cleveland Hustles, which is in partnership with LeBron James and LeBron Camp. And the whole idea there is, how do you revitalize neighborhoods, and how can you create a model to revitalize neighborhoods? And the goal there is we take four local investors that are willing to invest in entrepreneurs that will build storefronts in downtrodden neighborhoods. And really the idea is it's going to take small business block by block, brick by brick to reinvent our neighborhoods. And so that's been going great. We are one of the highest rated programs on CNBC. I'm excited about that, but more importantly, the idea was to bring jobs and economic revitalization. We've put 60 more jobs back into this 20-block neighborhood. We've deployed $800,000 in capital. An additional $2 million of investment has come into the neighborhood as a result of us kind of highlighting it. And here's a neighborhood that's had empty storefronts, businesses have struggled, and we've taken four local entrepreneurs and really put them in business. And for me, one of the big things that I've been focused on doing is how do I get them national distribution. So we took a bagel company to meet with Box and we got them a national distribution deal. Here's guys that slept in their car across the street from a shared kitchen, woke up at 4 in the morning, rolled bagels, borrowed a friend's freezer and learned how to freeze bagels so they taste almost as good frozen as they do fresh. And I said, I love bagel stores. They're going to build an amazing icon bagel store, which we did on Detroit. But more importantly, the frozen bagel market is a $480 million market. If we can disrupt that, which hasn't been disrupted in, I don't know, forever, then we might be able to actually put a ton of jobs into the Cleveland neighborhood. And so we've done that, national distribution deals. And to be honest, I've called on the advertising industry to kind of help me bring that to life and kind of support on those endeavors. So it's been great. To answer your question, I won't give you my full biography, but as I was saying, I just ran into a student who I used to teach at NYU in their graduate in publishing years ago when I was on the agency side. So I have agency experience, built global digital agencies around the world. I did that twice for private and then one for one of the big holding companies. Left there, I ran digital globally for PepsiCo for almost 5 years, where we did, I think, some of the most groundbreaking work, until I made it to my previous employer, which was Kraft, Mondelez International, Oreo, Wheat Thins, Trident, Cadbury, that, and I was chief media and e-commerce officer, kind of one of those early chief media guys, and I ran all media, and I was building our billion-dollar e-commerce business. So,
you said something that resonates a lot with us at Adobe, and that's digital disruption.
Yep.
We're here all week talking about the future of digital experiences, the marketers that design those experiences, to the technology that enables them, and then of course us, the people that actually consume them.
Yep.
And being in the thick of the television world, that's one area that has been severely disrupted with the introduction of live video and a whole number of things. I mean, where do you see the future of television going, and what can marketers and advertisers do to survive in this ever-changing landscape?
I was one of the largest buyers of television in the world for a long time, and so I have a general sense. The challenge that we have, to your point, is fragmentation. So consumers' options are exploding exponentially, and our ability to buy in terms of our dollars and investments are increasing incrementally at best, if sometimes not declining. And so when you look, the scariest thing for, I think, large organizations is they potentially might not be able to buy the same amount of reach that they used to that drove their business. So for me, I think TV is probably one of the most important platforms because it's something that has to be cherished and protected. But I think that at the end of the day, it really requires marketers to partner with television creators a lot more, or networks a lot more than they have before, and create experiences that consumers actually want to consume. right now I think the interrupted nature of commercials, we all know, is declining. The ability to fast forward, the ability to skip, the ability to watch with an absence of commercials, and the fact that there are businesses built on the fact that consumers are paying to do that is challenging. If you look about a month and a little, maybe a month and a week ago, a guy jumped out of an airplane with no parachute on, no wingsuit, and he landed in a net. That was Stride Gum, so that was mine. Actually, historically, 3 years ago, the person who did that with me, Jimmy Smith, came to me and brought me that project here at AdWeek. And so I look at that as an example of, we, instead of sponsoring, we actually underwrote, owned the content, and did it in partnership with the network, and brought something to life that was an hour-long special that people sat and watched that had Stride Gum all over it, right? And we pretty much took that brand from zero to Red Bull, you know, kind of overnight. But I think that it's going to require the marketers to really sit with network owners and show creators and create programs that have deeper integration, programs that, or advertising that consumers actually want to consume. And so that's a hard shift. We called it media monetization, create content that we actually made money from, ultimately become a real publisher. So many people will tell you, I'm a publisher, I'm a publisher, I'm a publisher. But what it really means is they're a brand that has a lot of money and they can stick stuff out there and put their logo on it. Publishers either get paid for the content that consumers want to watch by the consumers paying or advertisers paying for it. And so when you change kind of that mindset, it forces you to actually create stuff that people want. So I think that disintermediation has actually hurt the marketers probably more than anybody, because it's changed the way that we actually have to think about what we create for consumers.
Yeah, it really is. This ever-changing landscape has been so interesting across so many devices. And in fact, in preparation for this interview, I looked up a quote from Fortune where you were quoted as saying, one of the big challenges tech companies have is that they miss the emotional aspect of building brands. And I'd love to follow up with that. You know, what exactly did you mean by this, and how can really any company try to avoid this pitfall of missing the emotional aspect?
You know, I think you know, the reality is that brands are so much a part of people's lives. I remember when I worked at a certain beverage company, people would tattoo the logo of beverages on their body. I mean, it's insane. That's insane.
That's
I mean, that's loyalty. We married. People wanted to have a Mountain Dew wedding. Literally, the day that they want to remember most in their life, they wanted Mountain Dew to be a part of it. And so when you look, the emotional connections that brands, in terms of an identity perspective, have with consumers is so huge. And one of the challenges I think that the tech world still continues to face is, how do you build brands that people want to tattoo on their body? And it comes from a world of functionality, where if we just make a great product, people will realize it's a great product, and that's all we need. But at the end of the day, Apple is an emotional and a great product. And so the wins are those people who can figure out how to build emotional brands that connect with consumers, that reach into the heart of consumers, that consumers are willing to almost do anything for. And so that, I think, is where I don't think that the technology space has moved into, and I think that a lot of cases, logos and brand statements and communications are relatively taken as kind of arbitrary to the main business, which is, let's just build a great tech product. And unfortunately, the world doesn't just exist. If it was just about having a great product, there'd be a lot more successes in the world, but I think it's that combination.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm curious to know, Bonin, can you think of a brand that has provided you with an exceptional experience digitally? Something that what you felt was personalized for you, that resonated with you, that connected with you? And if a specific brand doesn't come to mind, what are some of the elements of a personalized experience that really does it for you on that front?
Adobe Photoshop has done so much for me through my entire life. Actually, to be perfectly honest with you, you know, when I was kind of in graphics, Adobe was a brand that kind of felt like it knew who you were in some respects, and knew the needs you had and the challenges that you face in your day-to-day life, and created tools for you to be a better you know, in some respects. So I actually do hold a lot of respect for the Adobe brand. You know, look, I think that so many brands have been able to do it well. I think there's a difference between well and great. I like to think that the work that we did on Oreo, in terms of the last custom product that we created, or that I was a part of creating, delivered an experience that was a brand that you know and love for probably since childhood. And now we took it to a next level where you could actually customize it and then deliver that custom experience with a message of your own. So basically it was called color filled. You could go online, you could customize the packaging, you could color from 2 different artists, every single aspect, you could move and skew, so it was continuously there was no limit to the number of packages, and then you could choose lettering and scarf, a hat on the cookie, and then you could write a personalized message inside of it. And people sent everything from, will you marry me, to it's a boy, and I was like, do not deliver that to the wrong person because that will suck people. Oh, I didn't know we were trying. But I feel like it was anything that what I thought was great about that was that we took a product that people knew and loved and we gave them an entirely new way to see that product and to experience that product. And that was through a digital, which then ended up in the physical world, and actually it came from a 3D printer that we created, which actually took digital bits and turned them into actual atoms, so you could actually taste what Grumpy Cat, so it basically printed a cookie based on what was trending on Twitter. So I think that was a great experience. I think that in a crazy way, something like a Pokemon Go, look, meteoric rise, potentially meteoric fall, but what it showed is that you can create a digital experience which is all-encompassing of a person, like people walking off, the crazy stories, but the fact that every single person in that, and by the way, it's an old age demographic. It's not really like it was like 9-year-olds doing this. This was up until like 36. Anybody who had some nostalgic experience with Pokemon, which is insane.
There were whole
to me.
college campuses that had just like congregated in the library or wherever those Pokestops would have been, right?
It's insane, and the amount of immersion that experience created for people. And what I also think it points to is that you asked the question, how do you win in a world where it's fragmented television, this and that? It proves that you can create experiences that can amass hundreds of thousands of people, millions and millions of people, hundreds of millions of people, and can be something bigger than Twitter overnight. So the opportunity exists. It's how do you find that right connection and create a point? And I think in a lot of respects, sometimes we get lost in shiny objects and technology. I'm a shiny object fanatic, by the way. If you look, I've been early on almost everything. But you can't let the object take away from what is the creativity, what's the connection, what is the experience that you're creating for the consumer. And again, there's a lot that have done it good. There's very few that have done it great. But I think that Pokemon Go is definitely an example, because I think it actually, in this moment of time, why it was so important in this moment in the industry for it to happen, it was because it proves to the industry that it is still possible to amass hundreds of millions of people around an experience. And now if brands can unlock how to do that, huge opportunity.
At the end of the day, it's all about the right message to the right person at the right time.
Hands up.
And whatever form that might be. And in the right platform, right. And of course, we'll continue to see digital disruption as we move forward. Just to kind of wrap things up here, where do you see the future, even in the near term? It's so amazing to me about the disruption we've seen, even in the last 5 years, even in the last 12 months. I have to ask this. AR, VR is such a hot topic right now. Is it a fad or is it here to stay?
It's here to stay. It's early days. It's really early days. I had a conversation. Someone's like, no, people are going to sit in the living room wearing glasses with their friends and they're going to have Oculus on and watching a sport game. I said, maybe. And I could be way off. I don't feel like that social experience. I think there's going to be more. Anyway, I think that the technology is going to evolve. But I do think that those who are in now will reap the benefits later. So I definitely think I would be an early adopter if I was any brand out there, hands down. And I would learn how to tell stories in it more so than just capture. Or also just even capture experiences. But for me, messaging. I think that, I thought the industry was moving a lot faster and we're able to pick up on trends a lot sooner than the reality is. And sadly, this messaging space is taking off so big, and most brands are behind the 8 ball on it, and they're very, very, very slow to adopt, again, to something that I think is going to be much bigger than social media, much bigger. And also, it's the true promise that we had, which was, how are we going to communicate with consumers on a one-to-one basis? That's what we said about social. The reality is, it still became, yes, I might be communicating at you, but I'm also communicating to everybody else who's listening, but it just happens to be at you. But now I have to communicate with you on this device that you text, with your loved ones. Everybody who's important to your life is in those messaging platforms. And now I have to learn how to communicate to you in a true one-to-one setting. And the fact that the industry is saying bots are going to be the solution for it is mind-blowing. Literally, we can literally sit across the table from each other and suggest that the way brands are going to communicate with consumers is through bots, and it's just not going to happen. It'll be a portion of it, and customer service and IVR will be, all of that kind of stuff. But there's an entirely new space, which, what does an emoji mean? Does it have an emotional resonance that's strong enough to move you to brand purchase? I I don't know. What does measurement in that space look like? What does engagement look like? Where's the buddy media of this space? Where's the co-tweet? Where's the analytics package? Where's the, none of this stuff exists. And so the fact that the industry is so slow to move right now, I'm very surprised. But anyway, that's where I think the future is. That's where I'm putting my bets. And that's what I'm excited about.
Well, Bonin, this is great. We appreciate your time, your commentary, and your insights. Once again, everybody, Bonin Bough, host of Cleveland Hustles on CNBC. So glad he could join us here in the Adobe tank.
Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. I expect everybody to watch it.
There it is, Wednesday nights at 10. We'll be here for the rest of the week. Stay tuned on Adobe Marketing Cloud Facebook page. And join in the conversation on Twitter as well, #AdobeTT. And thanks again for tuning in, Bonin. Pleasure having you with us.
Pleasure as always, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.